speaking the facts. If you man enough, come stand with us, take USA back. And every time we pull up, all you're gonna see is American flags. American flags. American flags. And every time we pull up, all you're gonna see is American.
So, Patriots, I usually go right into our monologue, but I guess I had some technical difficulties. It usually happens when you don't expect it to. But I have with me, as you see here, Michael Byrne, and I don't have Maurice with me. There's a storm up there in the Washington area or something or another, took out his internet. So we got a lot of things that we're going to pile through real quick. But Michael was introduced to me by Damon Galdo, who is running for Congress in New Jersey, and he had some happenings, I want to call him. He was telling me about some shenanigans that were happening in New Jersey. He said, you got to talk to Michael Byrne. He's the guy who can tell you exactly what's going on. So, Michael, welcome to the Patriots Prayer. And yes, and enlighten the listeners exactly what is happening in New Jersey. What's happening?
Well, I think New Jersey, you're seeing what is happening all across the country, which is people are waking up to how the establishment, the powers that be, put their thumb on the scale and try to keep America First patriots and MAGA Republicans off the ballot, or try to keep them out of a position to where they can really compete to get into an elected office, whether it's statewide office, county office, or Congress, whatever the case may be. And that certainly happens in New Jersey. It happens in a different way in New Jersey than in any other state in the country, where we have and have had for decades, a unique ballot structure. And in every other state in the country, when you go to vote, you'll see a title, let's say president, and we're talking about primaries now, not general elections, but primary elections. And so let's say you have, you think about 2016. When there were lots and lots of people running for president, you would see the title president, and then you would see many names underneath the word president. And you would have seen, depending on at what point in the process we were in 2016, you might have seen Rubio, Trump, Cruz, lots of different people, right?
Sure.
And it might be up to state law to rotate those names, or they might be alphabetical or what have you. But you could just find the name under the word president who you like and vote for him. And then the same thing with who's ever running for Senate or Congress or all the different positions. In New Jersey, we don't have a ballot that looks like that. We have what's called the county line, and the county chairmen, who are unelected and they don't report where their income comes from, and they have no rules really about how they operate.
So what does that leave that open to, though? If they don't report where their income is coming from, this is ripe for abuse, fraud.
Oh, absolutely. Tremendous abuse. And they have a lot of power to arrange the ballot by a line. And so they and or their county committee may endorse a certain candidate for president, a certain candidate for Senate, a certain candidate for Congress. They may want to reject America First candidates who are getting involved and want to get involved to do the right thing. So they marginalize them elsewhere on the ballot, and they put their preferred candidates visually on a line or in a column vertically. And so when the average voter finally gets the ballot or sees the ballot, they see lots of names that they're familiar with, all in a perfect line or a perfect column without any gaps. And all these people have been endorsed by the county organization, so-called. And then anybody else is on the ballot by themselves, and there might be lots of blank spots next to them. They might be separated by several blank spots. And so the average voter looks at it and says, well, why is this person by himself, or doesn't even notice this person or two people or what have you by themselves. They don't look credible because they're by themselves. In the case of a congressional candidate, they're not running with the mayor who is known to the voter, or the councilman who is known to the voter. Or
so they look like a different party. They completely
could look like a different party, but certainly they don't look credible because they're by themselves and they're hard to find. And in this way, in New Jersey for years, they've marginalized candidates they don't like, the powers that be, the power brokers. And so that's changing a little bit this year. A federal judge ruled that the county line is likely unconstitutional. That case was brought by progressive Democrats, but Republicans came along and said, "Well, we just want to make sure that, Your Honor, that your ruling doesn't apply to us, the Republicans. You're only saying, Your Honor, that the line is unconstitutional for Democrats." And the judge said, "That's right. I'm only saying it's unconstitutional for Democrats because no Republicans were a part of this."
Hold on. We pass laws depending on the party versus laws.
We have judicial rulings that are dependent on the party this year. And so we tried to fight that after the federal judge said, "That's correct. My ruling only applies in the Democrat primary." We went to state court and said, there's a very specific statute in state law that says the ballots have to be the same for both parties. And we went to the state judge and we said to the state judge, a federal judge has said the Democrats can no longer have this party line, that it's unconstitutional. The Republican powers that be are trying to keep it, but they're not allowed to under state law. We have to be given, the Republican primary voter has to be given the same kind of ballot. And basically the state judge was, I think, bullied a little bit by Republican lawyers and told that if you make a change this late in the process and something goes wrong, it was almost a little bit of an intimidation or a threat. Everybody's going to look at you. So Republicans are stuck once again on June 4th with a unconstitutional county line ballot, and the Democrats do not have that.
My understanding is they are running time and time and time again the same candidates that lose time and time and time again. And I mean, what do you think's behind these sorts of things? Are they actually picking candidates to run to lose? Is it that kind of subterfuge that's actually happening in the state?
Well, as I indicated, the county chairmen have they're not bound by any rules or disclosure or transparency.
Are they elected?
They're elected by the Republican members of the county committee. You know, in many states, it might be called state central committee or, something along those lines. It's the precinct Republican. But what happens is there are a lot of, vacancies in these precinct positions, and the county chairmen know exactly where their votes lie, and they know exactly who they can count on to be reelected, and they trade on their power as county chairman. Many of these people are lawyers, they're lobbyists, they have engineering firms in their families, and they leverage their role as county chairman to give the line to their preferred candidates, particularly at the county and municipal level. And then they get no bid contracts for their law firm or for their engineering firm or their lobbying firm or their insurance firm or whatever the case may be. And so these unpaid positions of being county chairman are really worth millions and millions of dollars to these characters. And that's really where all the power lies.
Damon's out there fighting pretty hard.
For
those of you who don't know, Damon Galdo, who is a very good friend of the show, and we talk quite a bit. He explained a lot of this to me, not as eloquently as you just did, I'll be honest with you, but he explained a lot of these things. But he told me of a situation that occurred when he actually asked this question in the middle of a meeting at a gathering, where he said, how many people here in this room actually donated to such organization or whatever? And the person he indicated he was speaking to said 3, and he corrected her and said, no, wrong, 1. And it was the one you gave the county line to. Mm-hmm. This is the practice.
We often see that in both parties, Republican and Democrat, at the state level. We had a U.S. senator at first called John Corzine, the first Goldman Sachs alum that we've had in a series of statewide officials recently. He came in and he bought the county lines about 20, 30 years ago. The maximum donation to every county that year was $37,500, I believe. And he just wrote a check for $37,500 to each of the 21 counties, bought himself the line. Then when he wanted to be governor a couple years later, he did the same thing. We've had Republicans that do that. And of course, a lot of the consultants like that, because now there's lots of money going around that they can get paid. There's going to be enough money for TV ads and for mail and so forth. Phil Murphy did it. And ironically, that's really where the county line is going to come to an end, because that's what Phil Murphy tried to do again this year for his wife. He's the governor. He already bought the governorship for himself twice. and now he wanted to buy his wife a Senate seat. And Andy Kim, the progressive congressman from Central Jersey, who can't buy lines, he's not, he's not well heeled like that, said, no, this is unconstitutional. This whole system. He's the one that went to federal court, and I think you're going to see the county line go down eventually, probably completely next year. We'll have to see what happens. But ironically, it's because the Murphy family got a little too greedy. They tried to have 2 seats for themselves, and there's only 4 seats in the state.
That's what happens when you live a life of that kind of affluency, and you don't get questioned. There's no real checks and balances, and so people aren't used to being told what they can't do when they reach that kind of level of power and influence. They expect to just be able to do whatever they want with impunity, and no one's going to say anything. No one's going to call them on it. So the only thing that we can do as people is educate folks and try to bring awareness. And I think, like I told you before we started, I think more people are paying attention now to these elections and these types of goings on than we ever seen in the past. I talked to so many people that were apolitical a few years ago who I can hold a full-on political conversation with today because there's an awakening happening. There's definitely an awakening that is occurring. And this is the most important election. And everyone says that every election, right? People kind of get numb to it. This is the most important election of people. This one really is the most important election of our lifetimes. What I'm afraid of is what happens 4 years later. I really do think we have a good chance of winning this one. I think most people see that. I mean, we see the popularity difference between the 2 candidates, but my concern is who's next. So, hopefully somebody steps up worthy of that. And, I got a few ideas, but I'll hold off. So we were talking, you were saying about the delegates, and there was something going on with the delegates as well. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, the party line implicates this as well. First of all, in New Jersey, we've had a number of polls in the last couple of weeks that show New Jersey is now a single-digit race between Biden and Trump. And of course, that's really the result of their 2 records: Trump's record of peace and prosperity, and Biden's record of abject failure. And so that's put states like New Jersey and New York into the single digits. We had a massive rally. Over 100,000 people came out on the beach to see President Trump about 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And our group that I represent, America First Republicans in New Jersey, we helped President Trump get on the ballot with a record number of signatures earlier in the year, 3 times as many as Biden. So that was sort of an initial barometer as to his popularity and the strength of his operation in New Jersey. He has no operation because in years past, any Democrat incumbent presidential candidate would have had tens of thousands of signatures. And he got a little over 3,000 this year, almost nothing, just enough to qualify.
I think that the press is basically trying to pull like a giant Jedi mind trick on people and make them think that this man is popular. It doesn't matter where Trump goes. He can walk into a bodega in New York. He can drive down the streets of Atlanta, Georgia. He can go through Harlem. It doesn't matter where he goes. His reception is always great.
He's a rock star.
No matter where, the most popular president in history. The only other man that I have ever actually seen in my lifetime as popular as what I'm seeing with him, but they attacked him the same way, and they just wouldn't let him make it beyond the debate stage and give him the delegates that he wanted. And I believe that were tricks by the party at the time, which was Ron Paul. Mm-hmm. Ron Paul sold out Madison Square Gardens. Ron Paul never lost a debate. Ron Paul was number 2, number 1 the entire election until the very end. They wouldn't even say his name on the news. That's how much that the media and everybody campaigned against him, because they called him what? Dr. No. He was Mr. Constitution.
Yep.
Trump is a little bit different of an approach, but he's definitely the alpha male that we need at this time in history. Right now, we don't need this guy who allows Chinese balloons spying on the country, flying all the way across the country before you act, or setting up 20 shell companies and having $30 million flow through your coffers of your company. Not to mention the advent of now the veracity of Ashley Biden's diary, which was put out there for everyone to read. And the contents of that diary I never want to hear another Democrat talk about President Trump's morals. I'll just leave it at that.
very, 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 very disturbing. And what's more
It is
disturbing,
extremely.
what's more disturbing, and this is going on in a lot of states, as I'm sure you're aware, is the delegates that are being chosen are not necessarily loyal to the president.
No.
And so I encourage, no matter where you're listening to or watching this podcast tonight or in the future, pay attention to who has been chosen as delegates or who will be chosen as delegates to the National Convention in the coming weeks. If you're able to get involved in your county or state convention to have a voice in who those delegates are, we don't have that option in New Jersey. But if you do, find loyal Trump supporters, because if something goes haywire in Milwaukee, he needs to be able to count on his delegates to adopt his platform and to fully nominate him as the nominee of the Republican Party. He's not the nominee until Wednesday night in Milwaukee of the middle of July. So it's the delegates that do that. We need people he can count on. We don't have those people in New Jersey right now, unfortunately. So we're going to have to hold them accountable too.
Very, very, very hard to tell who anyone is. There are a lot of people out there pretending to be conservative, pretending to be loyal friends of the president when they were anything but. I mean, I spoke to you briefly about Mike Pence and some of his involvement, and even after the fact, some of the things that he said on the debate stage early on in those debates that Trump didn't participate in. So it really kind of gave you a clue as to the loyalty or the disloyalty that Trump was truly surrounded by. Michael, I'm going to give you a last word before we get out of here. Anything at all you want the audience to know, any events, anything about yourself before we get out of here?
First of all, I appreciate you having me on. We're transitioning from our petition effort, where we obviously, as I said, we helped qualify President Trump for the ballot. We're transitioning now to get out the vote, ballot harvesting here in New Jersey to help him close the deal. If he does drive this down, if there are two records of these two presidents do make this a 3 or 4 point race, a good get out the vote ballot harvesting effort can help close the deal.
Keep in mind, folks, the ballot harvesting he's talking about is the legal one.
Ballot harvesting.
Not the ones like in Connecticut or the ones that happened in 2020.
Absolutely.
But, sorry, go ahead.
Totally above board ballot harvesting. And we call it Project 14 to deliver New Jersey's 14 electoral votes to Donald Trump. If you're in the state, you can visit AmericaFirstRepublicansNJ.com to join or to participate. And we're gonna be working very hard for the next 6 months to get the vote out for President Trump any way that we can. People want to vote whatever method they want to vote. We're gonna have a deluge of Republican votes so that it's too big to rig, as the president says.
That's exactly right. So if you're in New Jersey, guys, make sure you're looking at your ballot. Check your ballot. Do not go down ballot. Look at the columns. Look at the people in the columns. Know who your candidate is before you show up, because they're playing these games at the voting booth.
And in particular, that's very important in the Senate race. Just as a final word, the president has endorsed his longtime friend and ally, Christine Glassner, for U.S. Senate in the Republican primary. But these county chairmen in 13 counties have basically exploited the Trump name and the Trump brand by putting a different candidate from the Chris Christie wing of the party, a guy who donated to Cory Booker, helped Spartacus get elected to the United States Senate. Wow. They've put this guy on the line with his name directly next to Trump as though they're running together. They're not running together.
Yeah.
The president has totally rejected him and has endorsed Christine Glassner. So in most counties, Christine Glassner will be somewhere else on the ballot. And if you want to vote for his choice for Senate, somebody he can count on when they go to their third impeachment, right, which they will do, then it's Christine Glassner, and it's somewhere else on the ballot.
And don't forget, if you're giving money to Cory Booker, who is a member of the DSA, you cannot possibly be American-minded, period, at all, zero. The DSA is the Democratic Socialists of America, and I believe anyone who actually is a member of this group is by rule of what it is a seditionist, plain and simple. Would you agree with that?
Of course.
I don't think that you can be a socialist without being a seditionist, because you have to tear up the free market system and the values that the country is built on and reestablish the country with a different set of rules and a different foundation.
Of course, antithetical to property rights, antithetical to the patent system, antithetical to the free market. Of course. So.
Exactly. Well, Michael, thank you so much for joining us, my friend, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you in the future, brother.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you. So, guys, please, if you're in the New Jersey area, watch it. They're playing games. Look at your ballot, choose carefully, educate yourself. It's so important. The next go around, our politicians are going to be making, a lot of very, very, very important decisions, and extremely important decisions. And, they're going to be going after Trump in some way or another, as long as he's a threat. And he's a threat to every one of them who is antithetical to this country. They are the most un-American bunch of people on the left that I've ever seen. And don't even excuse the guys on the right that are playing conservative, though they're really not. And there are quite a few of them. Guys, we'll be right back after this word from our sponsors.
Born in the coastal plains of South Texas, Smoking Gun Coffee is founded by combat veterans that know exactly what a cup of coffee needs to taste like. Run by father and son, each coffee bean is perfected, roasted at 500 degrees, and cooled with a Gulf Coast breeze. Smoking Gun Coffee hand makes and bags each ounce of coffee for maximum customer satisfaction. With every purchase, 10% goes back to organizations that help veterans and local communities. That's Texas made, one bag at a time. To find out more, go to www.smokingguncoffee.com.
So, Patriots, go to smokingguncoffee.com. Use code Native Patriot, get an extra 10% off. Great guys, veteran-owned company, veteran-backed company, and they support veterans causes. It's so important to spend your money where your values are. You can also go to the sponsors link on thepatriotsprayer.com, and you'll see a list of all of our sponsors right there. And you support them, you support us, you support veterans, because we don't align ourselves with anyone who doesn't align with our values. Now, this next story is about Steven Schwartzman, and Steven Schwartzman is the CEO of Blackstone. And we were all kind of surprised early on in the election season when he came out that he wasn't going to back Trump. Well, he's made a complete 180. I'm going to play a video, and we'll be right back after this, and I'll talk to you more about it.
Or was it for the participants of Davos?
I think it was for several different constituencies. I think here's somebody who is having the impeachment process start with the trial today, and I think this was a speech to basically say, I think we need some perspective, and let's look at what's happened under this administration. And I think that's not just for domestic consumption. I think it's meant to be heard in a broader context.
Could the U.S.-China Phase 1 deal have been signed 12 months ago?
It would have been if it could have been, but it couldn't have been done. And part of the issue on the trade agreement, Francine, is that you need two countries, and each country has its own politics, and China is not a monolithic country in that sense. They have their hardliners, they have their reformers, and what's happened over the last, it's actually been 3 years that the U.S. and China have been discussing changes in trade, that it takes a while for a country that's got a very particular system like China to basically make a decision to start changing the system that's been very successful for them. So I think that the fact that a Phase 1 deal was done meant that both parts in China have come together, along with the U.S. side, which itself had ambitions that ranged from exceptionally comprehensive to not so much so. And so everybody met in the middle.
So this was the early on rhetoric that you heard from him. And I played that so you understood exactly what they were trying to do. They were trying to play both ends against the middle. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work for those of us who actually pay attention, for those of us who actually remember what it is you said you stood for. We actually hold the things you say against you. We're not the uneducated left. I know that the memory of people in America, as far as what happens in the political realm, is very short. I mean, people don't remember 6 months from now what a candidate or what someone did 6 months prior. So it's a very short memory span. So for this guy to be playing the middle of the road, fence sitting position, to come along now to being on the side where he's actually backing Trump is something. I mean, we'll take support anywhere we can get it. Schwartzman doing a complete 180 and deciding to back Trump for 2024. And just last year, he was telling everyone the GOP needed to look in a new direction. Well, now he's all in for Trump. Maybe Schwartzman peeked at his portfolio and thought, hey, I missed the good old Trump tax cuts that are getting ready to come up. And, you know, maybe he's concerned about our economic, immigration, foreign policies, claiming that he's taken the country in the wrong direction before. Well, now it doesn't look so good now when he can actually come out and say that he's backing the guy who said needed to go away before, and taking a soft stance on China while he did it. It's pretty sad. But like I said, Trump will take support anywhere we can get it right now. And what it really is for me is an indication of they thought they were stronger than they were. They thought they had more backing than they did. It doesn't mean they've actually changed. It just means that if Trump would have been losing or appeared to have been losing in the polls, he would have continued with his old rhetoric. He just wants to back a winning horse so that he has somebody in his back pocket or someone so he can turn around and say, well, no, I backed you or I supported you. When in fact, that's not really the case at all. Not at all. So guys, I just want to take a quick time out to say thank you to all the guys in the chat. Light up the McGroin Nation guys. I see you over there. Silent, welcome to the chat. Murrah, Pop, Dragon. If I miss anybody, I'm sorry. But you guys, man, I really do appreciate you showing up and showing out. Very huge for all of us. Guys, if you haven't already, please go ahead and share the live. Share it out. Tell your friends about it. If you haven't, click that follow, subscribe, that like button. I don't care where you're watching. You know what? I didn't tell you this, guys, this news. So I've been banned on Facebook for about 1 year now. And happenstance, day before yesterday, I go into my old Facebook account, and what do you know? Facebook saw fit to finally they won't let me advertise still. They won't let me run any ads or do any of that kind of stuff. And let me tell you this story, because I'm streaming this on Facebook too, right? But let me tell you the story. So I was considered a political organization. I went and I filled all the paperwork out, got the affidavit signed, sent in my ID, filed all the right paperwork so that I could run political ads and all this sort of thing on Facebook. Well, I did. And when I did, they banned the account. They said that I wasn't allowed to run the ads or talk about social issues, blah, blah, blah. Well, when I proved to them that I could, they said that they overturned the strike. Well, in fact, they didn't. And then they gave a second strike to me for hate speech for posting a meme of, I wouldn't even call it a meme. It was a Bible verse, Corinthians 6:9. And it talked about homosexuality, perversion. It talked about adultery, lying, fornication. It talked about a lot of things, right? But it was a Bible verse, nonetheless. And they called it hate speech. But by the time all this was done being unraveled, Facebook had already gave me a lifetime ban on this particular account. And so I get on yesterday and I know that I said, it looks weird. It looks like everything's back the way it was. So I put a post out just essentially saying, hey, it looks like I'm unbanned. Let me know if you guys can see this. And the post just went bananas. Like, I think I had like maybe and it was, you know, the first post I put out in over a year and, you know, of its kind. And it said it had like damn near 300 likes or whatever in a short period of time. And I don't even know how many views. It would just going bananas. And I put a lot of time and effort into Facebook because at the time, Twitter was not the place to be if you were a conservative. I mean, the whole damn Twitter sphere looked like Occupy Democrats. I mean, to be quite honest, anyone who's been there for any period of time can tell you that. Is exactly what most of us who weren't in that particular social sphere thought, and we just stayed away from it. What was the point when all you were going to get was shadow banned and you weren't going to be able to get your point across or be able to say much of anything? Well, although Facebook wasn't much better, we had a following, and I had put a lot of blood, time, sweat, equity into this page. So it hurt like hell to be told that I had a lifetime ban on the page, and I wouldn't be able to I wouldn't be able to advertise. But the advertisement part of it is a little different. I'm a 100% honest person, right? Whether you like the truth or not that I tell you, I'm going to tell it to you. So at the time I was working with a guy who's a stand-up comedian, and I still talk to him. He's a great guy. I mean, he's got his flaws. We all do. But and he's a bit of a conspiracy theorist, and that's putting it lightly. I mean, that's putting it extremely lightly. So he had put a post on the Patriots prayer page because he was posting as, I'd given him permission to be able to post to the page. We were kind of working it in tandem. And he had put a post on the page that said there were no planes that hit the towers on 9/11. Now, I'm not saying that, just so that everybody out there, YouTube, all the other guys that like to give people strikes, I'm not telling you that. I'm telling you what happened yesteryear. I'm not saying that, nor do I believe that. But that was, I guess that was the one, that made it to where I had a lifetime ban on advertising. And that one, I'll be honest with you, I tried to explain my case to him. It didn't quite matter. But I understand if somebody would have posted that, I would have been a little pissed off too. And I was, I was pissed off when I saw it, but I had removed it before they said anything. But when you're a conservative on those platforms, they look for any reason at all to monetize or to demonetize you. In fact, on that very page, I was monetized. I had over 500,000 person reach on that page, right? Just to tell you how much reach we had. 500,000 people. And it was down to 2,000 within a week. And then it just continued to decline. And and I took it very hard. So I was pissed off, to say the least, about what had actually took place. And it made it very hard. From now on, whenever I work with somebody, there is a litmus test for those who I work with to make sure that we're on the same page. And, Maurice checked all those boxes in spades. He's not a conspiracy theorist, right? He believes right and wrong trumps right and left. And so, I mean, and if you look at his page on X, you'll get the feeling that the guy actually has a good head on his shoulders. But yeah, he's not able to be with us today because internet is up where he's at. I don't know what's going on. I think it was a storm or something. Not sure, but there's no internet where he's at. So I'm going to go at it alone, right? Not doing too bad, right? So there are a couple of other stories that we want to get to. And, the WHO is trying to, and who are unelected, they are not members of our Congress, of our Senate. They're not U.S. citizens. Most of them are not U.S. citizens. And yet they continue to try to change policy in the United States constantly. And they're not finding it so easy to do that this time around. Look at this.
A new WHO report calls for further investigation into the Wuhan lab leak theory. A foreign ministry spokesperson saying, quote, the lab leak theory is totally a lie concocted by anti-China forces for political purposes, which has nothing to do with science. Here to react, WHO advisor Jamie Metzel. Jamie, thank you for being with me this morning. So all of a sudden, and I think somewhat novelly, China and the WHO seem to be on separate sides of the issue of where the COVID virus began?
Well, I wouldn't say that's exactly right. Certainly, China's behavior since the earliest days of the pandemic has been absolutely abhorrent. They've blocked any meaningful investigation into pandemic origins. They've imprisoned Chinese citizens for asking the most basic questions, and they've placed a gag order on Chinese scientists, and have in every way interfered with international efforts to figure out how the pandemic began. The WHO, which got off to a slow start in its response to the pandemic, and then was given a very, very flawed mandate by its governing body, the World Health Assembly. Essentially, the Secretariat of the WHO got rid of the body that had been pushed on it by its governing board, and created this new entity, called SAGO, the Scientific Advisory Group on the Origin of Novel Pathogens. And that is the group that just released its report, which made clear what to many of us has been obvious since the beginning, that there's a very real possibility this pandemic stems from an accidental lab incident. And that's what the Chinese are responding.
So half of the U.S. governors are saying not so fast to the WHO's new pandemic proposals. They worry the WHO is trying to grab more power, turning from the advisory body into the global health authority. Imagine, if you will, during the health emergency, we had to take orders from organizations thousands of miles away. They're not even in the United States. These governors are like, we can manage our own emergencies. Thank you very much. Right. And who doesn't feel the same way about what's going on, even in their states? It shouldn't be federal law. It's like pandemic power play, and the governors are holding the line. And so that's really what we're up against. And this has happened in New York and in other places where they actually put laws in place, like NY 213, where they're doing these quarantine laws. NY 213, if you look it up, they basically have the ability to quarantine you, even if you don't test positive for anything. And the amount of time you're held is indeterminate in the law itself. And the criteria for which you have to meet to be released is also not defined. So this type of thing is actually very ripe for abuse. And now they're talking about making the governing body for the world an unelected group of people in a completely different country. And the United States and the people therein and our governors, thank God, are saying not so fast. This is not happening on our watch. So there's that. Now, next, you know how much we hate woke culture. You know, me and Maurice go to bat for, I mean, literally the thing that we abhor the most is woke culture. It's people out there virtue signaling and trying to get famous or trying to get a little clout off of, trying to make something racist that's not, or just, in any version of that. We just can't stand it. And they're doing it again with Star Wars, of all things. After Luke comes out and makes all those pro-Biden commercials, they're still attacked, saying Star Wars isn't diverse enough. We'll talk about that more in a minute. I'll be right back after these messages, guys. Take a listen to this.
Have you noticed the ever-alarming 400,000 cell towers that have gone up in the United States alone? How about the electronics that reside in every room of our homes and Wi-Fi that runs 24/7? 5G cell phones are carried in our pockets hours on end. Common complaints are ringing in the ear: sleep deprivation, palpitations, headaches, memory loss, and so much more. Redemption Shield is on the cutting edge of offering products that protect your family from electromagnetic and microwave radiation. From Faraday bags, earthing bed sheets, Wi-Fi router covers, hats, scarves, bed sanctuaries. This will not be going away anytime soon. We will continue to see only faster speeds, 6G, 7G, and more exposure to EMF than any time in our history. Start protecting yourself now. Go to redemptionshield.com and get grounded and shielded today. Use code PATRIOT and save 10%.
Yeah, I was checking out your comments right now. We're on break. Yeah, Robin, you're right. You're absolutely right. It does. Facebook does suck. But, when you built the following up over there like we had, why the hell not use it? Why the hell not use it? Even if to get people to go to a more First Amendment type platform like X or come follow us on Rumble. The idea is that we would have all of the guys that watch us on X or anywhere else, go to the Rumble page. Become subscribers on Rumble or on our locals. Those are the things that are going to propel us into the next phase of our career and doing what we're doing here. I can't wait. I mean, the 14th is coming up pretty fast, and Maurice and I are going to be down there, and they have an all-star lineup at Turning Point. Candace Owens, Donald Trump, the Trumpster is going to be there. We got special guest passes. We're going to be backstage where they are. We're going to be backstage with Matt Gaetz. This is, I mean, for a political nerd, I mean, it doesn't get any better than this for us, really. It really doesn't. And they put the event on right, and they've worked with us every step of the way. So we're going to be in Detroit, Michigan, 14th to the 16th. We're going to be broadcasting live from the event. I'm going to bring everything I need to do that. They're going to let us plug into their system. We're going to be doing all of those things. So I can't wait. And guys, I'm telling you, the content, the connections, the networking that's going to come out of this it's going to be absolutely awesome. I mean, this is like our Christmas day, to be quite honest with you. Before we went on break, I was telling you about Star Wars and about how they were saying Star Wars is not diverse enough. I found this. I was looking for a clip from George Lucas actually responding, because they said he responded, but I couldn't find the clip anywhere. Not on X, not on the internet, nowhere. So I don't know if he just did it in writing or whatever. But I did find this clip from Joe Rogan that speaks to the exact issue. And listen to what he says. And Joe Rogan, you already know, he's unfiltered. So, you know, if you're not sensitive to certain words or whatever, you don't want to hear this. But listen to what Joe says.
This movie had a female lead who's a female superstar who spoiler alert, winds up winning in the end, killing the alien.
Yeah.
But you don't even notice.
No.
It never feels like it's crammed down your throat.
Right.
Whereas the last Star Wars,
Yeah.
I was like, get the fuck out of here, Laura Dern. You're not running the Empire. Like, get out of here. You're like, what is this? Like, she's the head general, and then Carrie Fisher's the other head general, and they're telling these men to shut up, and this all makes sense to you?
Isn't that fucking
This
amazing?
is preposterous.
Dude.
So, yeah, for those of you who have not seen the rhetoric that was put out there, they were saying that Star Wars was not diverse enough, right? It's funny when you're talking about a movie about it has Wookiees and all this sort of thing, but George Lucas fired back at his critics claiming Star Wars isn't diverse enough. He's saying, have you seen my movies? My universe is filled with all kinds of species and characters. Critics complain it's all white men, but Lucas points out that his galaxy is teeming with diversity. Remember Lando, Mace Windu, Princess Leia? The Star Wars universe has been a melting pot from the very start, but it's a bit ironic when the guy who creates a universe with green aliens, robots, Wookiees, has to defend diversity, his diversity credentials to the woke public. It is absolutely ridiculous that it has to go down like that. Now, in other news, I love this one. I absolutely love this one. So Trump is down in the Bronx, right? He's hated, right, guys? You would think, based on the left-wing media, Trump is so hated in the Bronx and in Atlanta, Georgia, and Chicago, and all these places where he's greeted with cheers, and he walks into a stadium and the room erupts like a volcano. But yet someone down there had the audacity to try to one-up him, and what happened was the people at the audience, I mean, the people in the crowd, the Latinos and blacks in the crowd, answered for him. And oh my goodness, it was absolutely amazing. And it just goes to show you guys, listen, speaking of Star Wars going into the whole Trump thing, and I said a little bit earlier, the media is trying to play Jedi mind tricks with people. They're trying to make you think Trump's not popular. The most popular president in U.S. history, bar none. Nobody in politics in the world, for that matter. I don't give a damn if you're a movie star. Nobody is more popular than President Trump. And as far as presidents go, I would venture to say that he's probably the most loved and popular president in history. But what they do is they love focusing on those people that have orange man bad syndrome. They love focusing in on those guys because when they focus in on orange man bad people, you know, they try to make you think that's what's out there. Those guys are the majority. They're not the majority. They're never going to be the majority, right? This is not going to be an election where Trump should only win by 2 or 1 point or anything. Trump should be winning. Trump should win this election by double digits. Listen, the rhetoric that well, you heard in the beginning, Michael Byrne, I had on the show. We talked a bit about what they're doing in New Jersey. Well, folks, they're pulling tricks everywhere. We just sued to get illegal aliens taken off the voter rolls in 2 states. But they're consistently telling you that illegal aliens can't vote. Oh, excuse me. Did I say illegal aliens? Yes, illegal aliens. Illegal aliens cannot vote. That's what they keep telling you. But when they come here, they're handing out Social Security cards and driver's license at the border like they're consolation prizes. So the people at the DMV are registering them to vote. They don't find out that they're not supposed to be able to vote till much later. And do you really think at that point they're going to pull their largely Democratic registered voters out of the voting pool? No, not. And they're doing it intentionally. Look, there were NGOs in Mexico down there actually giving out paperwork, telling people in Mexico to vote for Biden and Harris to keep the border open. There are literally NGOs giving out paperwork down there now. And I actually had a copy of the paperwork. Let me see if I can't find it real fast. If I can find it real quick, I'll show you. But they were PDFs. They were literal PDFs. If you only knew how many things I download, it's absolutely ridiculous. But I did see it just the other day as I was flipping through here. And okay, just doesn't look like I'm going to find it. But I mean, literally, it was a PDF and that I got, and it's written completely in Spanish, and it's them literally saying, if you want to keep the border open, you need to vote for Biden. That's literally what happened. That's what they've done. That's what they are doing. And nobody on this side is going to complain about it. This is how they get away with these like super PACs and NGOs and that sort of thing. So they can do all the things that they normally wouldn't be able to do under normal election law, because it's not them doing it. It's somebody else doing it. It's somebody else's money. Lobbyists, it used to be such a good thing to have lobbyists that were there, because they would fight for all the right stuff, and they would get in the ears of the congressmen and the senators and this sort of thing. And now it's a pay for play all day, every day. I mean, we had people like Kevin McCarthy in there, which exemplified the pay for play. And not to mention our own president. Remember the FD 1023 form, a federal informant that worked for the FBI and been paid up into the 6 figures because his information was so credible. It was so credible. Yet this FD 1023 form was filed away in the back of a filing cabinet and never pursued. And when it was made known that it existed to Chuck Grassley, James Comer, and others, and they asked to see it, Christopher Wray lied to Congress. He lied to them, said it didn't exist, until they told him they knew what was in it and started talking about it. And then all of a sudden it did exist. And then they tried to hold him in contempt for not turning the form over. And then he had to allow them to view it in a SCIF, even though it wasn't classified information. And they were oversight. Just like right now, when they want the audio tapes of Special Counsel Hur talking to Biden, and Merrick Garland won't turn them over. Well, I don't know who Merrick Garland thinks he is, but when Congress subpoenas a record from you from Special Counsel and they have oversight, you don't have the ability to tell them no. And if you remember, this already happened and the precedent was already set when the Watergate Hotel, Richard Nixon All those tapes had to be turned over. He couldn't claim executive privilege like Biden's trying to do right now because it was in the middle of a criminal investigation, which is what this was. He gave his ghostwriter classified information. And we know he did. We even have him on audio doing it. So, you know, this is the most absolutely asinine thing as far as a political tactic that I've ever seen. And every time I say that, they one up it every single time. I cannot wait until this election season. Guys, if you're sitting home, please don't. Everyone, we need every vote, every single vote counts. And I need you guys to go out in your area, wherever you live, wherever you are, and volunteer. Be a part of the process. They cannot do things like what happened last time, or even, let's say it politically, right? They can't do things that were claimed were done last time. If you're there, if you're inside, if you're there watching them, if you're there recording them, if you're there as a part of the process, and that's what we need. We need you guys to go out and become delegates. We need you guys to go out and become poll watchers. We need it. The left, you know, they do get involved a lot more than we do in the political process. Well, a lot of them don't have jobs. I mean, their jobs are being literally the radicals that they are. That's their jobs. They have people that live up in the Washington area that are professional protesters. That's all they do. That's what they do. They're professional protesters. Can you imagine if your life was professionally protesting? I mean, what a waste of a life, to be quite honest with you. So, guys, hey, listen, thanks so much for hanging out. And, expect that you'll see Maurice on the next podcast. And there are a lot of things that we have in the works. You already know we've been posting about it. We've been talking about it. And right now we're waiting for the dots to connect for those things to go forward. So when it does, we're off to the races. And for those of you in the woke corner, we're coming. We're coming. You're going to be exposed. And with the backing that we will have in the process, if everything goes as planned, the force and the united voice that we will have will be much louder than anyone thought that it could be. And I'm not overselling it at all. So, guys, as usual, the silent majority, you need to stop being silent and stand your ground. We'll see you next time on the Patriots Prayer. And thank every one of you guys in that chat. You guys make it worthwhile. I love you, the tribe of Patriots. I love you guys. You're McGroin Nation, guys. I absolutely love you. Tell Sean that the Patriots Prayer loves him. And we'll see you next time on the Patriots Prayer.
My people of this country, and we're under attack. They banning us, they cancel us for speaking the facts. If you man enough, come stand with us, take USA back. And every time we pull up, all you're gonna see